Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about compatibility. We're going to talk about what I like to call true compatibility, which is a little bit more complex than just looking at two people's sun signs or two people's moon signs or Venus signs. And this should help you in interpreting compatibility between two people, especially if you're watching my compatibility videos. I do think that you should watch this one before you interpret using those videos. So there's that. We're also going to talk about those apps that are out there that try to do compatibility ratings, and we're going to talk about CoStar, and we're going to talk about the pattern. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think the pattern is flaming garbage, and you're going to find out why if you stick around to the end of the video. And lastly, I'm going to be talking about my method of comparing compatibility between two people. I'm going to take you through the steps and talk about the different elements that come up when you're looking at compatibility. So let's get into the video. When we talk about compatibility, we have to also understand that there's different kinds and different layers to compatibility. And so you could be intellectually compatible with somebody, but not be romantically compatible with somebody. Or you can be emotionally compatible with somebody and not be physically or sexually compatible with them. Or you can be compatible in all of those things, but you just are not ethically or morally compatible with them. So those are all different things that you want to take a look at. So you can be really attracted, you can be intellectually, have great conversations, but just your outlook on life is just quite different. And that's just not going to work out, my friends. So these are all the things that you want to take into account. And really it's taking an assessment as to what is the most important thing for you in compatibility, because ideally you would want to have somebody who matches all of those criteria. You're emotionally compatible, ethically, morally, physically, you think they're a 10, they think you're a 10, and all of that is great. But that's just, guys, I just don't think that exists. I don't think that people are perfect. I think that we're imperfect people, and we just find somebody who just meets the criteria that really matter the most to us. And I think that when we know what matters the most to us, then we have an easier time at finding somebody who we can really be compatible with. And even if we're incompatible in other areas, we just want to make it work together because they really meet the big things that matter to us. So that's what we're going to be looking at in today's video. So where do you start? And the place to start really is with the individual chart. So you could look at your chart first or look at their chart first and try to break it down to the most basic essence. And what I mean by that is, if you haven't watched my what's your main planet video or what's your vibe, then those are kind of the main essences, the main building blocks when it comes to defining a person astrologically. So you want to find what your main essence is, which is going to tell you a lot about the things that matter to you the most in life. And the reason you're going to do this is because you're not just one thing. You're not just a Sagittarius. You're not just a Leo. You are more than one thing. So you want to see what thing within your chart really is most prominent for you, because it's going to tell you a lot about the things that you're going to need to be happy in a relationship. So you're going to be looking for the dominant planets, the dominant energies, or any prominent energies, right? Maybe it's not very dominant. Maybe it's not dominant at all, but it's a very prominent placement in your chart. So it's going to mean a lot to you. And after you do that, you're going to want to look for resonating energies, complementary energies, and energies that have affinity with each other. So I'm going to define what each of those things are. So in physics, resonance has something to do with amplification and how you will amplify a certain energy based on the kind of energy that you have. So what does that mean? What that means is that when you are with somebody who has something within them that is similar to a thing that you have, similar or the same to the energy that you have, you're going to amplify that energy in each other. So that feels really nice. So that is something that you might want to have with somebody else that you're going to be spending a considerable amount of time with. So why wouldn't you want somebody who's really going to amplify your energy? But the thing you have to take into account is that you can amplify something good or you can amplify something negative. So again, we're going to have all sorts of relationships, right? And sometimes you're going to have a relationship with somebody who's going to amplify your darker side, and maybe that's something important for you in your chart. So that's something that you're going to want to explore. I'm not here to judge and to tell you these are the kind of relationships you want to have and you shouldn't have these relationships. It's really up to you, and your chart is going to kind of tell you the kinds of things that you're interested in experiencing. So keep that in mind. And next, you want to have somebody that has complementary energy to you. So you look for affinity, you look for complementary energy, and complementary energy is just energy that goes well with each other. So what are some examples of that? So Mars goes really well with Venus, the moon goes really well with the sun, etc. You want to look for elements that are complementary with each other, or just energy that is complementary. And this energy can come from either the planets or the signs. So this could come from oppositions, like Taurus and Scorpio. They're in an opposition, but there's a link there. They're fixed and they are looking for security, for example. Or Pisces and Virgo, service, that's the service axis. So you look for things that are going to balance each other out. This is where the whole opposites attract. It's not necessarily that they attract, but they work well together for a reason. So you want to look at this. And this really reminds me of color families. So I don't know how much you guys know about color theory, but there are color families. I'm going to put up an example. So you see how all the colors in this color family look well together? That is kind of like having complementary energy with somebody. Your energy just blends well together. Like the earth signs, they understand each other because earth is their currency. The fire people, they understand each other because they're all very passionate people. So you're going to relate on that level. So you want a little bit of that. And then you also want to have a little bit of opposition, which is that complementary colors. So complementary colors are found on opposite ends of the spectrum. And those colors, for whatever reason, they just look well together. They make each other pop. And they allow the other color to shine. So that is how Aquarius and Leo let each other shine, because they're opposite. And when you are standing before somebody who's opposite you, you could really shine in your light because you look so different than the other person. So you want a little bit of both. You want to have some complementary and some opposition, because it makes things spicier and it makes things just like be good. You want a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So the last thing that you want to look for is something known as affinity. So affinity is when you have elements in the chart that they're not the same, but they're kind of similar. So this could work out if you have somebody with a Pisces moon. They're going to have some affinity with somebody who has Venus in the 12th house, for example. So, Pisces and the 12th house are related. So there's some affinity there. So even if they don't have the same moon sign, for example, there is nonetheless affinity between the two charts. So that's another example. And this affinity really just means that there's understanding between the two people. So they might not have the same placements, but they're going to understand each other on some level. And that is something that you want to have with a partner. You want to have some sort of understanding. And now I'm going to give you some helpful hints. So when you're looking for compatibility, really, if you are a very water dominant person, then you're going to want to have somebody whose moon is compatible to yours. If you are, for example, an earth person, if you are earth dominant or you have an earth rising, then you might want to have somebody who has a compatible rising sign to you, because that rising sign is your outlook on life, the things that you value. I know that Venus gets called the things that you value, but because the rising sign is the way that you see the world, doesn't that really affect the things that you value? I really think that it does. So having those compatible rising signs is going to be very important if you are a practical earth person, for example. If you are a heavily air person, then you want to have a Mercury connection. You want your Mercuries to be compatible and to be doing something positive in the synastry or overall. You want to have a positive Mercury connection with the other person, because you're an intellectual, right? Or if you consider yourself intellectual in any regard, then you're going to want to have good Mercury energy between the two people, because you're going to want to talk to your partner. If you're a chatty catty, you're going to want... Did I just say, yeah, in my family we say chatty catty, not chatty Cathy. So we are going to want to have a Mercury that is just working. It's doing the right thing. And now let's talk about the apps. So CoStar it's been around for a while, and I think that it's a really cool app, and I think it's a great way of introducing astrology to people. But I do think that it tries to give you very authoritative horoscopes. It's essentially a horoscope, guys. It's just looking at your chart and it's just like, this is going to happen to you. And it's just not completely accurate, because it is not taking into account all the other layers that you should be taking into account when you are doing any type of forecasting in astrology. So all I have to say about CoStar is just take it with a grain of salt. It's just like a very advanced horoscope. It is not going to be the end all be all. It's not going to predict very much because it is just one layer of the cake. And that prediction cake should be at least 3 methods deep. As I've already said, you want to use 3 different methods of prediction when you are trying to do predictions. So CoStar is fun. It could give you some vocabulary words that you maybe didn't know before, and it could, help you learn a little bit of astrology if you look deeper into it. But don't just take it as gospel, because it certainly is not gospel. And the one that I really think is flaming garbage is the pattern, because it gives these like huge conclusions. It'll be like, oh, this person is your soulmate, and it doesn't explain why. And I'm an astrologer, so I have like the underlying knowledge to try to pick apart where it's coming from with these like decisions that it makes. So I have some type of an educated opinion about it, and I'm able to decipher it. But a person who has no astrological training or has little astrological training is going to be like, some things are going to resonate with you. So you're going to tend to believe the app. You might be shocked at the things that it tells you, especially if you don't know astrology. So usually when you're learning astrology, the first thing that is really shocking to you is your moon sign. And if you have this app that is telling you about your moon sign for the first time, you don't know astrology, you're going to be like, this is magic, like this is crazy, and you're going to believe it. So if it tells you that this person is your soulmate, and let's just say, because we all did it, guys. We all put every single person, at best friend, every freaking celebrity, every person that we've met, we put them in the CoStar. I mean, in the pattern. And then it's just like, this person's your soulmate. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And because I already knew, because I know astrology, I'm like, this is saying that this person's my soulmate because we share a moon and sun sign. So did I have a great connection with that person? Absolutely. Did we have a completely different outlook on life? Yeah, that's why we're not together, and it never would have worked out. And if I didn't have my astrological training, then maybe I would have been really bummed out and been like, oh my God, I missed out on the love of my life. But I know astrology, and I know people, and I have foresight, so I was just like, absolutely not. And I really think that it could be really depressing if the pattern has stressed you out or made you a little bit depressed about your relationships, or made you see people, it gives you some enlightening things, so I could see why people would like it. But it also is flaming garbage because it doesn't explain where it's getting this information from. It doesn't tell you like their Mars is incompatible with your Venus, etc. It doesn't. It just kind of puts it all behind the curtain, and it makes it look like it's magical. And really, it's not magical. It's just astrology. And really, astrology is like a science and an art, because it takes a little bit of artistic ability to be able to just put everything together in a way that is meaningful and that makes sense. So this would be like, you go and get a blood test, and instead of having your doctor or your health provider, instead of having them tell you what the results mean, that would be like Googling them and being like, oh yeah, that's good enough. No, Google is not good enough, because it is just a machine, and it is just giving you information. You really have to have the knowledge in order to interpret it in a way that is meaningful and useful. And I think that is just flaming garbage, and I hate it. Lastly, I just want to talk about my compatibility videos. I get a lot of questions like, Denise, is this for sun signs? Is this for moon signs? Is this for rising signs? And the answer is all of the above, guys. I really have left the homework, the hard part, up to you. And really, it's up to you knowing what part of the chart is the person identifying most with. And obviously what I recommend is that you watch all the ones that, like the moon and the sun and the moon, all of them, because all of those energies are a part of who you are, because as I said, you're not just one thing. So I think that you should just take those videos as just a part of your puzzle. It's not going to be, if I said that Virgo and Gemini just don't go well together and that's it, and you're a Virgo and your boyfriend's a Gemini, does that mean you guys should break up and it's a terrible union? Absolutely not. That is just a small part of who you are. I have not done like a chart reading on you in order to tell you the things that are working and that aren't, right? So with these videos, you just have to take them as one part of the puzzle. It's not the end all be all. So I made those videos with the understanding that you guys would be smarty pants and figure that out. But I realized that a lot of people who come to these videos, they're beginners, so they might not know that. So I just felt that I should say it here. So that's a video for today, guys. I hope that you liked it. I hope that it was useful or interesting for you. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments. I feel like a scarecrow wearing this shirt, but I'm running out of things to wear. It's really cold here, and I'm tired and I have a lot of work to do. So I hope you guys liked the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.